Most people don't realize this until it's too late. The more you love someone, the more you suffer. Not because love is painful, but because you're attached. And attachment is silently destroying your peace. If you don't understand this, every relationship you enter will eventually hurt you. There is also a silent truth about love that most people never realize until it is too late, and that truth is this: the more tightly you hold on to someone, the more pain you invite into your life. You call it love, you call it passion, you call it connection, but often, what you are truly experiencing is attachment. And attachment is not love, it is dependence disguised as affection. It is the fear of losing someone, the constant need for reassurance, the quiet anxiety that lives in your chest when they don't respond the way you expect. Stoic philosophy teaches us that suffering does not come from events themselves, but from our attachment to how we believe things should be. In relationships, this becomes even more dangerous, because you begin to tie your happiness, your peace, and your identity to another human being who is completely outside of your control. The moment you do that, you give away your power. You stop being centered, and you start reacting. You stop loving freely, and you start fearing loss. And in that fear, suffering begins to grow. 1. The truth you were never told about love. Most people enter relationships believing that love is supposed to complete them, that finding the right person will finally bring them peace, happiness, and emotional stability. But this belief, as comforting as it sounds, is the very thing that creates suffering later on. Because when you believe someone else is responsible for your happiness, you unknowingly give them control over your emotional state. At first, everything feels perfect. Their presence excites you, their attention validates you, and their affection makes you feel alive. But slowly, without realizing it, something shifts. You begin to depend on them. You begin to expect consistency from a world that is naturally unpredictable. And in that expectation, anxiety is born. You start to overthink their words, question their actions, and fear their absence. What once felt like love now feels like pressure, like uncertainty, like emotional instability. This is the moment where attachment replaces love. And the Stoic truth is simple but uncomfortable. The more you depend on something outside of yourself for peace, the more fragile you become. Because anything external can change at any moment. And when it does, it takes your sense of stability with it. This is why so many people suffer in love, not because love itself is painful, but because they were never taught the difference between love and attachment. 2. Attachment is not love, it is fear in disguise. Attachment often feels like love, but in reality, it is driven by fear. The fear of being alone, the fear of being replaced, the fear of not being enough. And because these fears are rarely acknowledged, they quietly shape how you behave in a relationship. You start seeking constant reassurance, not because you truly need it, but because you are afraid of losing what you have. You become overly available, overly invested, and overly concerned about how the other person feels about you. You begin to monitor their actions, reading into small details, trying to find meaning in everything they do. If they respond quickly, you feel secure. If they don't, your mind begins to race. This emotional roller coaster is not love, it is attachment controlling your inner world. Stoic philosophy teaches that fear comes from placing value on things we do not control. And in relationships, this becomes dangerous when you place your sense of worth in someone else's hands. Because now, their approval defines you. Their attention validates you. And their absence destroys you. Real love does not operate like this. Real love is calm. It is steady. It does not demand constant reassurance because it is not rooted in fear. Attachment, on the other hand, is restless. It is always seeking, always worrying, always trying to hold on to something that was never yours to control. 3. The moment you lose yourself. There comes a point in an attached relationship where you slowly begin to lose who you are. It does not happen all at once. It happens in small, almost invisible ways. You start adjusting your behavior to please the other person. You say yes when you want to say no. You hide parts of yourself because you are afraid they might not be accepted. You prioritize their needs over your own, thinking that this is what love requires. But in reality, you are abandoning yourself. And the more you do this, the more disconnected you become from your own identity. Your happiness becomes tied to their mood. Your peace depends on their consistency. Your confidence rises and falls based on how they treat you. This is the cost of attachment. You trade your inner stability for temporary emotional comfort. Stoicism teaches that your identity should never be built on something that can be taken away from you. And yet, in attachment, that is exactly what happens. You build your sense of self around another person. So when they change, when they pull away, or when they leave, you are left feeling empty, not because you lost them, but because you lost yourself in the process. And this is one of the deepest forms of suffering a person can experience in love. 4. Why you feel so much pain when they pull away. When someone you are attached to begins to pull away, the pain you feel is not just about losing them. It is about losing the emotional security you built around them. It feels like something inside you is being taken away, like the ground beneath you is shifting. This is why people panic, overreact, or chase harder when they sense distance. It is not just love, it is dependency reacting to uncertainty. Your mind starts creating worst-case scenarios. You begin to question everything. Did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? Am I not enough? These thoughts do not come from reality. They come from attachment. Because attachment creates a false sense of control. It makes you believe that if you do everything right, the other person will stay. But the truth is, you cannot control another person's choices. And when reality does not match your expectations, suffering intensifies. Stoicism teaches acceptance, not passive acceptance, but clear understanding. People are free to act as they choose. They are not bound to your expectations. And when you truly accept this, something changes within you. The panic begins to fade. The need to chase disappears. And you start to realize that your peace should never depend on someone else's consistency. Because the moment it does, you are no longer in control of your own life. 5. The illusion that keeps you stuck. The most dangerous part of attachment is the illusion it creates. It convinces you that you need this person in order to be happy. It tells you that without them, you will feel empty, lost, incomplete. And because you believe this, you hold on tighter, even when the relationship is no longer healthy. You ignore red flags. You tolerate behavior that goes against your values. You stay longer than you should, hoping things will change. But this hope is not based on reality. It is based on fear. The fear of starting over. The fear of being alone. the fear of facing yourself without distractions. Stoic philosophy challenges this illusion by reminding you that everything you need for peace already exists within you. No person can give you completeness, because you were never incomplete to begin with. When you understand this, attachment begins to lose its power over you. You stop clinging. You stop fearing loss. And you start seeing relationships for what they truly are, experiences, not possessions. Connections, not dependencies. And in that shift, you begin to reclaim your freedom. Be honest, have you ever felt this way? 6. The Stoic way to detach without becoming cold. Detachment is often misunderstood. Many people hear the word and immediately think it means becoming distant, unemotional, or indifferent. But Stoic detachment is not about shutting down your feelings. It is about mastering them. It is about creating a space between what happens and how you respond. In relationships, this means you can care deeply about someone without allowing their actions to control your inner state. You can love them, appreciate them, and enjoy their presence, but you do not cling to them as your source of happiness. This is a powerful shift, because it allows you to remain stable even when things around you change. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer desperate for reassurance. You are grounded. And this grounded presence is what makes someone truly attractive and emotionally strong. Stoicism teaches that you should fully engage in life, but without attachment to outcomes. In love, this means giving your best without expecting perfection in return. It means being present without trying to possess. Because the truth is, the moment you try to control love, you destroy its natural flow. But when you learn to detach in a healthy way, you become calm, centered, and in control of yourself. And ironically, this is when relationships become more natural, more peaceful, and more fulfilling. 7. Loving without needing, the highest form of strength. There is a level of love that very few people reach, and it is this: loving someone without needing them. This does not mean you do not value them. It does not mean you do not care. It means your sense of self is so strong that your happiness does not depend on their presence. You choose them, but you do not rely on them to complete you. This is what Stoic philosophy encourages, a form of love rooted in strength, not dependency. When you love this way, you remove pressure from the relationship. You are not constantly seeking validation. You are not afraid of silence. You are not shaken by small changes in behavior. Instead, you remain steady. You remain composed. And because of this, your love becomes more genuine. It is no longer driven by fear, but by choice. You are there because you want to be, not because you are afraid to be alone. And this is what creates real attraction and respect. People are naturally drawn to those who are self-sufficient, those who have control over their emotions, those who do not crumble under uncertainty. When you reach this level, you no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you choose. And most importantly, you no longer suffer unnecessarily, because your peace is rooted within you, not in someone else. 8. Reclaiming your power in relationships. The moment you realize that your emotions are your responsibility, everything begins to change. You stop blaming others for how you feel. You stop expecting them to behave in a certain way just to keep you stable. Instead, you take ownership of your inner world. This is where true power lies. Stoicism is built on this principle. Focus only on what you can control. In relationships, this means your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. Not their behavior. Not their feelings. Not their choices. When you truly understand this, you stop chasing control where it does not exist. You become more observant, more patient, more aware. You begin to see people clearly, without the distortion of attachment. And this clarity allows you to make better decisions. You know when to stay, when to speak, and when to walk away. You are no longer driven by fear or desperation. You are guided by reason and self-respect. This is the Stoic way. It is not about avoiding love, but about approaching it with strength and awareness. Because when you are in control of yourself, no situation can break you. And when no situation can break you, you become truly free. 9. The peace that comes with letting go. Letting go is one of the hardest things for people to do, especially when emotions are involved. But what most people do not realize is that letting go is not about losing something. It is about gaining peace. When you release attachment, you release the constant need to control, to predict, to hold on. You stop fighting reality, and you start flowing with it. This creates a sense of calm that is difficult to describe but powerful to experience. You are no longer overwhelmed by what-if thoughts. You are no longer consumed by fear of loss. Instead, you accept things as they are. If someone stays, you appreciate them. If they leave, you accept it. Not because you do not care, but because you understand that your peace is more important than your attachment. This mindset does not make you weak, it makes you resilient. Because now, nothing external can disturb your inner balance. And this is what Stoicism ultimately teaches. True happiness comes from within, not from outside circumstances. When you truly let go, you do not become empty, you become free. Free from anxiety. Free from overthinking. Free from emotional dependence. And in that freedom, you finally experience what real peace feels like. 10. Final truth: master yourself, not love. At the end of everything, there is one truth that stands above all. You cannot control love, but you can control yourself. And this is where your focus should always be. Because when you master yourself, you naturally improve every area of your life, including your relationships. You become more patient, more understanding, more emotionally stable. You stop reacting impulsively, and you start responding with clarity. You stop chasing people, and you start attracting the right ones. This is the power of self-mastery. And this is what Stoicism is all about. It is not about suppressing emotions, it is about understanding them. It is not about avoiding connection, it is about approaching it wisely. When you reach this level, you no longer fear love. You no longer fear loss. Because you know that no matter what happens, you will remain grounded. You will remain in control. And you will remain whole. So instead of trying to control relationships, focus on controlling your mind. Instead of fearing loss, focus on building inner strength. Because in the end, the person you need the most is yourself. And when you truly have yourself, you no longer suffer from attachment, you rise above it. At the end of the day, love should not feel like anxiety. It should not feel like fear. It should not feel like you are constantly on the edge of losing something. That is not love, that is attachment. And attachment is the root of unnecessary suffering. When you learn to let go of attachment, you do not lose love, you purify it. You remove the fear, the control, and the dependency, and what remains is something stronger, something calmer, something real. The Stoic way is not about avoiding relationships. It is about approaching them with clarity and strength. It is about understanding that your peace comes from within, not from another person. And when you truly understand that, you become free. Free to love without fear. Free to connect without losing yourself. Free to walk away when necessary. Because you no longer rely on others to complete you, you have already mastered yourself. If you want to master your emotions and build unshakable confidence, subscribe now. Because most people will never learn this, but you just did.